In more sad news tonight, American broadcasting legend Larry King has passed away at the age of 87. His representative, Aura Media, says he died at the Cedars-Sinai Medical Center in Los Angeles this morning. He'd been in hospital with a COVID-19 infection, but had endured health problems for many years, including a near-fatal stroke in 2019, as well as diabetes. King is best known for his interview show, Larry King Live, which aired on news channel CNN for 25 years. He's survived by 3 children. Celebrities and fans alike have taken to Twitter to honor the broadcasting legend. And speaking of honoring the broadcasting legend, someone here at home who says her career has been shaped by the likes of Larry King is radio and television presenter Anile Mdota, who's joining us from Johannesburg by Zoom to reflect on his passing. Anile, thank you so much for your time. So, first things first, does it get more legendary than Larry King?
No, it doesn't, because this is the man who, changed his name from Larry Zyger, because apparently it wasn't catchy enough, to Larry King. And he decided literally 3 minutes before he went on air, because they were like, you can't use Zyger, it's not catchy. And he said, you know what, call me Larry King. And did he live up to being called the King of Talk? I mean, who can forget those huge interviews with Vladimir Putin, when he had Hillary and Bill in the same chair? The first person to get an interview with Chris Brown after the entire, Rihanna gender-based violence incidents. He was just it. And think about it, guys, with nothing but a desk, a microphone, and a background.
And I love the variety that you just outlined there, from sitting with Bill Clinton to doing an interview with Chris Brown, who was the furthest thing from politics. And a lot of people, in reflecting today, are saying that was just the thing about Larry King, that he could sit with anyone and it would feel like a conversation between 2 old friends.
And that was the point, because he had a radio background. He was initially a radio presenter, a really good writer, and then ultimately ended up on TV, small networks, bigger networks, and ultimately ending up on CNN. And every single time you stepped into an interview, you knew for a fact you're going to learn something about that, the subject of that interview that you never knew before, regardless of how well you knew them. And I just have to stress that in a world of pyrotechnics and, the fanfare, the big stages, the big doors. I mean, I love Oprah. I adore her. But that's why I call them my broadcasting parents, Oprah and Larry King, because they were so different in their approach, but their execution always got the same results, that you would learn something about that person. Who cared for political leaders back then? Let's be honest, politicians weren't celebrities back then. That's something new, like in the last, 10 years. But back then, he would put them on their chair and get you interested. I was 11 when I was watching Larry King. So you're very right in saying that he just made everything interesting. He just made everything interesting. That Larry King hour was gold.
You were introduced to him, as you say, at age 11. What is your earliest memory, that moment where you as a broadcaster fell in love with Larry King?
The bow tie, I'm a Chris band. What's that called in English?
I can't, the English escapes me as well.
Like, what are they called? Suspenders. It was that, and it was that uniformity of, I'm not here to outshine my guest. And I remember, because he's very good friends with Cal Fussman, who's one of the head writers for Esquire, right? And Esquire can write an article. And I remember him and Cal doing this masterclass, and they just teaching interviewers and broadcasters how to ask questions. Because, when you have a subject on, you're like, when did you start at eNCA? No, you can't do that. You must tell me when I started, and then ask the follow-up question. And those were the things about him. So the one thing that stands out for me is, he said the easiest way to know someone is to ask them, why is your best friend your best friend? So you think about it. It's not who's your best friend. It's why is your best friend your best friend. And that's what I was saying when I tweeted that I'm going to be on eNCA tonight, that he was asking questions that he pretty much knew the answers to, but the way in which he asked them always stood out. I would say him sitting with Hillary alone without Bill was really big for me. It was after she'd written her book. And it was after, because we know when Bill is there, Hillary can't be like, you're a dog. But, when you've got Hillary alone and we're looking at her political future, it was such a good hour. Guys, everyone that sat on Larry's chair, when he would even have, like, celebrities. And that's when Piers Morgan took over. We're like, oh, Piers, you've got big shoes to fill, my friend.
And just on that, you and I work together in radio, just for those who don't know. I recall a conversation last year where you were actually watching some of his what would now be his final work, and you were saying that even in his late 80s, he still hadn't lost that edge, that ability to get everyone from a former First Lady to a rapper to open up to him.
And because we trusted him, because you knew that even if you know that you are not going to look good in this interview, what Larry's not going to do is go out of his way to make you look bad, right? Because of his research and the fact that he can make you a rounded person before we tackle the insane things about you, you know? And that's what his strength. And that's why everybody always wanted to go back on him. I mean, even at a podcast now, if you look at his podcast guests, you see, well, okay, fine, you know. He had George Bush's dad with Barbara. Is Barbara the wife, the senior wife? He had them, and then he had George Bush Jr. with his wife. Now, it's very rare that you find names like that wanting to sit down in an interview together. You only see it in TV shows like Scandal, Olivia Pope. In real life, I think Larry King also shaped a lot of what we see now in fiction, in fictional shows. He shaped a lot of it. And the fact that he was always doing cameos. I mean, he was even in an animation, the B movie, where it's Larry King. And the fact that somebody who's 8 years old or 9 years old is kind of aware of who Larry King is long after Larry King's reign on TV shows you just how legendary he is. And as broadcasters, it's what we should all be striving for.
I think you have just delivered the eulogy. Thank you so much for that, Anil Mtoda, radio and television broadcaster reflecting on the passing of international broadcasting icon Larry King today.